I always call this the Afhas al-Assad chairs because, like, I remember whenever I used to see, like, you know, pictures of, like, Madeleine Albright or somebody, like, talking with Assad, there was always, like...
Yes, it was like this, yes.
And she would complain that, you know, he would, you know, bitch for, like, 8 hours about the plight of the Arab world and, you know, the history and Syria, and, like, before they go... Okay, but can we do something about the water rights in the Golan Heights? You know, whatever it was.
Right.
And I feel like I could do better than boring you for 8 hours. But also, I'm just glad you're here because, you know, I feel like I've known you forever, but we never really sat down.
I know, never.
It was always on the show or like a little bit after.
You're very professional about that, though. I appreciate that about what you do.
Oh, you mean like trying to be friends with, yes. It has to happen slowly and organically.
Yeah.
The way I grow this.
Yeah. The way you grow all your weed.
No, I don't grow it, but you know, but I feel like you and I are overdue for slowly and organically.
We are, because the truth is, you barely ever say anything I don't agree with.
And the same with you.
I just feel like this man gets everything I fucking believe.
And you say it so much more eloquently.
Oh, no.
What you do, all you fucking limeys are just naturally more communicative. You just are. It's amazing the way, the facility you have with the English language.
Well, part of it is coming from a big Irish family.
No, I did something in the schooling in the British history, and, you know, it is the mother language.
I was president of the Oxford Union, Bill.
You what?
I was president of the Oxford Union when I was 19. I was like chair of the Oxford Debating Society. I'm like, I've been doing this for...
Well, I was captain of my Little League baseball team, so fuck you. You're an American now, babe. I didn't move to your fucking country. You moved to mine. But, you know... But really, for the amount, I really love you. Oh, it's a very overdue thing that we would sit down here and
I'll be delighted.
Smoke our respectively sized cigarettes.
No, I won't.
Yeah,
especially because
England may have the big balls, but like Big Ben. Big balls on the end of Big Ben. Like when they ring the thing at midnight. But we have the big joints over here in America.
Cannabis in England is a really weird thing because
they're legal?
They're still terrible about it.
It's not legal.
It's not.
Not anywhere.
Not only that, but the public debate is terrible. Not
in any of the 4 countries?
No.
Really?
No. And it's this... Well, I found it. Maybe we should wait until we do the podcast. But
we're doing it.
Oh, this is happening right now.
Everywhere. That's the beauty of this podcast is that you just don't know it's happening.
Well, the thing about weed is that I grew up. Well, when I was in college, I mean, I was a totally uptight, completely doing my homework, terrified little gay Catholic boy.
I was the same thing if you take out the gay.
Okay.
Terrified, doing my homework, terrified of, I don't know what, right? But like a lot of things, like a lot of anxiety, way more than I have it as an adult.
Yeah. Well, I was terrified mainly because socializing would mean I had to go with girls.
Getting beat up.
No, but I was also the girl thing. I couldn't hack it with the girls. So
I couldn't either, and I'm not gay. So I guess I may as well have been gay in high school.
This is why some of the most bonding moments with straight guys is with nerdy Jewish guys who had exactly the same experience in high school.
Well, I'm not Jewish.
Well, you're half Jewish, kind of.
I didn't even know that until I was 13.
Okay. I just mean that there's a certain nebbishy...
But it was
nebbishy.
The Catholic upbringing, I think I had, that made it even worse because they're so demonic about sex and that sex is so bad. I never once had a discussion with my parents. Like, once my father, like, gave me the facts of life, and it was, like, very awkward, and we were both glad to get over with in 5 minutes. But, you know, it was just a point of such embarrassment at home to even bring the subject up.
Oh, no,
or if I was watching TV.
And something came on that was sexual, you would feel excruciating.
And in those days, it was nothing. It was like, oh, Christ, we're watching Some Like It Hot, and look at that dress on Marilyn Monroe, and I'm getting a boner, and Mom probably knows it. And I remember watching that on TV and just like flying up to my room to jerk off.
I just remember thinking, how does my mother launder my pajamas when they actually, at this point, can stand up by themselves?
So funny you say that. I had the same situation.
I just had this like a complete blizzard of.
I know. Tell me if you had this experience. Okay. I doubt. But
Catholic upbringing.
When I started masturbating, I didn't know what it was.
Me neither.
Okay.
No idea.
Right.
No idea what the fuck was happening. Anything was happening.
Well, first of all, the only thing I'd ever seen come out of my dick was urine. So I assumed it was urine. And because I was so scared of it, I was doing it only under the covers, in the dark. The idea of looking at something like people do with porn and that never crossed my mind. And nor there was any access to anything like that. It would be everything that was just in my memory. The girls I saw at school, hot women I saw on television, pictures I saw in risque magazines like TV Guide and Time, but that was enough to get a boner. I mean, anything was at that age. So I would just be jerking off in my flannel pajamas. So the cum would go into the pajamas. Okay, so listen to this. I get to be like 14 or something, and I'm still doing it this way. And my sister goes off to college. My mother had a nursing job, and then she worked one night a week. The night I was home alone, I would take my crusty pajamas and go down to the laundry room. And while my mother was away, I'd put the pajamas in the wash. That's what my sneaky thing was. Wow. And I feared the day my mother would like forget something and come back to the house, and she'd be like, Billy, is someone doing a load? And I'd be like, someone's cleaning a load.
Right.
I mean, what the fuck?
But what did I think? I just gave it to my mom. It was like, I didn't care. It's funny, like the weird thing about me was that I remember the first time it happened. This happened down here, and I had no idea what was happening at all. Feeling intensely it was basically the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Masturbation?
Becoming sexually alive, it was the most...
It's often still the best thing in my life. like definitely on Mondays, often Tuesdays. No, it's...
No, but I was just like, so I'm supposed to think this is sinful and terrible? And my actual experience of it was, this is fucking amazing.
Right. I remember having the thought in my head when I didn't know what it was, but I was sort of scared of it, thinking to myself, oh, I hope this isn't hurting me, but it doesn't feel like it hurts. Like there's something about this. But the fact that I just wouldn't ever physically lay my eyes on it when it was happening.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing it under the covers.
Really?
I was just... You know what I was rubbing it against this stuffed animal named Crazy.
I used to fuck my teddy bear as well. I did. I'm not kidding you.
You're a pervert. You were fucking it. I was just rubbing my dick against it because it was convenient.
After a while, I realized I can't give these self-walking pajamas to my mother. Basically. Maybe if I just get all this goop into this thing, no one will see it.
When did you realize that it was something different than urine that was coming out of the end of your dick?
Very. I mean, first of all, I don't know whether I do remember the first time it happened, which was kind of a little painful, like this little pearl, this like white little pearl, this not clear little pearl came up, and I'm like, what is that?
Oh, so you did see it? You did it in the light?
I did it in the light, absolutely. I was not. I clearly was clear, and it kind of looked.
And
back
how
and
did you? With your hand?
Oh yeah, of course, with my hand.
I didn't think of the hand till
moisturizing cream.
I didn't think of that till like year 3.
Really?
I'm telling you, it was just crazy. I mean, I was just.
You were repressed.
Well, I mean,
I didn't know where I got my. Where I just was like, well, this is so fucking great. This is the best thing that happened to me. I would run home from school, so I'd have like 45 minutes before my parents would come home, or my mom would come home, lock myself in the bathroom, get my mother's lotion, moisturizing lotion, because they cut my usual foreskin off at a terrible age. But
what, you circumcision, you know?
I got circumcised, yeah.
So did I. Aren't you thrilled?
Well, wouldn't need moisturizing if you wouldn't need moisturizing.
But your dick would look awful. I mean, I do this bit in my act, but an uncircumcised dick to me looks like something that lives in the ocean. It's one of the grossest looking things. And I've had people, when I've talked about this publicly, actually protest because they see it as some sort of genital mutilation and all this, cause stuff.
I'm sorry, but this is an error of I'm really pissed. I have my foreskin taken away from me.
Yeah, we can disagree on that. I think you should be thrilled. I really do. I know people say,
but you're right.
People say you can die from it. And I say, I don't give a fuck. I have to look at porn. I don't have to. I choose to, but, I don't want to look at that thing. I can't look at any porn with an uncircumcised dick. It's just too disgusting. How anyone could put it in their mouth, let alone look at it.
Well,
look at it, let alone put it in their mouth.
Well, I feel the same way about vaginas.
Right.
No, I actually like foreskin a lot.
But we don't have
I'm kind of a bit of a fan of foreskin myself.
Really?
Yeah.
So when this is something you would like choose in a mate.
It's a plus.
It's a plus.
For
but
me.
You've been with both.
Oh yeah. Well, in America, mainly none. Everyone in my generation, everyone's basically circumcised. But this is what when I grew up. It was one of the first things when I was in school, when I was in the showers with the other boys. Because in England, no one gets circumcised, and I was
really.
Yeah, no one does. It's
maybe that has something to do with the teeth.
But I honestly thought that means I'm gay. Maybe that's why I'm gay. That I have a different looking dick than these other dudes.
Oh, I see.
We used to call them cavaliers and roundheads.
What's
the English Civil War? The cavaliers had these big floppy hats, and the roundheads had these little short hats, and that was how.
So I'd be a roundhead.
You'd be a roundhead, yeah.
It sounds like something we could get canceled for. Like, you called him a roundhead.
But it's, I never, and this is when people say to you, were you not consumed by guilt? I really wasn't. And this is a thing. I knew I shouldn't be doing this. I knew that I was told it wasn't, but it was so intuitively, physically, obviously wonderful that I honestly just dismissed it. And like you, no porn, absolutely no porn at all.
Right.
But unlike you, I'm suddenly looking at dudes, which is another thing that just like, I can't keep that. So what I used to do was I used to cut out, I'd go to the Sunday magazines, and occasionally they'd have a fashion spread, and there's some dude with a shirt off. I'd wait till it was the very bottom of the pile before it was thrown out. Then I would get it. I'd cut them out. I'd throw them out, and then I put them. I had a scrapbook.
It's uncanny, these similarities,
really?
Because I did the same thing with. I still have it, by the way. I saw it recently. Something I made when I was 12 and 13, and it has notebook. So sweet, white line notebook paper what I had notebook. Scotch taped onto it are pictures I cut out from, again, Life magazine, Time, the newspaper of Raquel Welch, Anne Margaret, Sophia Loren, Bridget Bardot, Diane Carroll, the hot women who I saw. I Dream of Jeannie.
I can close my eyes now and see in my imagination a fashion spread in the Sunday Times magazine called of boxers in boxer shorts.
Oh.
That was the
sure.
But of course, I get to see all these fucking hot boxers.
So how old were you? So you
9, 10, 11.
So you knew you were gay at 9?
Oh yeah. Earlier than that.
What year? That's so interesting.
As long as I can remember. I mean,
but
being gay means I didn't mean. Oh, that means I'm one of these people that shoves their dick in somebody. That's not what I'm talking about.
Sure, what I'm talking about. I mean, it's a relevant part of it for me.
Oh, it is a relevant part for me now. But when I was figuring it out at 4, 5, 6, I was like, I don't know how that.
It's curious to me.
I developed crush. I had a crush on a friend, and I had a crush on a cousin, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I really felt kind of weird. I got a little hot and bothered, like when I was around them.
At 6?
And yeah, just as a young
See, that's
kid.
curious to me because I would not have thought of gay or straight when I was 6 or 9. I remember learning that there was the latent stage. Of course, I learned this after I was in it, but it made perfect sense to me because I had a very serious latent stage. In other words, they say you're sexual when you're an infant. I don't remember that. But knowing me, I probably was jerking off all the time in the crib. Crazy probably was like, oh yeah, we used to do this when you were a baby.
We could look outside, see the pram rocking gently to and fro, and thought he's okay.
But it's from as far back as I can remember until I was about 12, 11, 12. I think it started maybe at 11, but I wouldn't let anybody know. I had no interest in girls, which was going to be my big interest, but no interest. I was interested in baseball and playing and shit like that. And it was, boys hung with boys and girls had cooties. So, I don't know if that's a gay
very
thing.
Normal. No, it's a very normal thing. But when I'm saying I'm
You're
just saying
precocious.
No, there were just feelings I had. They were not sexual feelings. They were just hard to explain. That I just long, and then of course I had no way of knowing how that could work out in life. So I used to dream maybe I could be. I used to look at the
because of where society was at the time.
Yeah.
And where was society? What
when I was born, it was still illegal in England.
Illegal, right?
And literally no one ever spoke of it. It was so one of these things that was so awful.
And yet I think of it as such a gay country.
I know you do.
I'm kidding.
Well, the truth is there's no gayer than anywhere else, but the upper classes have this long toleration of it.
Very gay.
They can be. They're also not some of the time. But working be like me, a sort of,
So you were like a guy a kid who's thinking, I'm going to have to live a life of subterfuge.
I didn't even have that. I just saw a big black hole in front of me. I had no idea what I would do as a grown-up. I had no idea how I would get married. I just had to have these slight nightmares of what I would do.
What kid wants to get married?
Well, you just want to have some idea of the future. When they said, oh, when you grow up, you'll do this, you'll do that.
I had an idea of the future. It was avoiding marriage. I've been awfully successful at it. I hate to brag, but it is my birthday today. I think I can let out that brag that I got to this age without ever catching my big toe in the trap.
Yeah, it's like that old New Yorker cartoon where these two old duffers, this old couple is together in like the Upper East Side and reading the paper, and one says, I hear the gays that want to get married.
Right.
And the other woman, the wife says, haven't they suffered enough?
But you were married.
I am.
You are married.
I'm trying. He's going to come over, I hope, if I'm allowed.
Oh, I thought that didn't work out.
It is not working out.
It's complicated?
Oh,
of course, we're not going to talk about it. I'm just happy if you're happy.
We're happy. We love each other.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We're great with each other. The question
good.
of how we're going to live the rest of our lives it's just a question.
Well, that's always the problem for everybody, is that they can't figure out a dynamic that really works and
in the very long term. Because
right. It conforms with human nature, which is both something that gets tired of things, including people, as hard as it is to say it. Certainly sexually, Well,
that's, I think, a male thing too, more than a female thing.
Of course. Yes and no, yes.
It's like the Chris Rock line that there's no such thing as good and bad pussy. There's just old and new pussy. And that the attraction to the newness, the new exploit, the new body to explore, something else that's there. That is so driven into the male psyche, I think, and in the male.
It's not driven into the male psyche. We're born with it.
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
It's driven by our genes. It's driven by our entire evolutionary strategy.
Yeah.
And we just have to acknowledge that.
Well, exactly. So, I never got
the other thing that we're doing is living so fucking long. the marriage is now like it's three times the length of marriages in the 18th century. I mean, it's hard to be together with someone that long when you have other options. The other thing is that people didn't have any other fucking options.
Exactly.
Women had no options. They had no fucking options.
Right.
And the social stigma of not being married was overwhelming. And certainly that was the case of me growing up. So I kept thinking, who do I get married? I can't marry. I just had this panic. That's all. And that's why, in a way, for me, later on in life, when marriage became this sort of obsession of mine, not as personally obsession, but I realized that moment when you figure out I have no future is the moment you start separating yourself out from the world as a gay kid. You start thinking, I'm not as good as everybody else. I'm not worthy as much as anybody.
Did you ever have suspicions or actual friends who were gay about other boys where you're like, oh, I could be friends with him? No. Because I think he's because you thought you were the only one? Nobody else? So even when you were a teenager, there wasn't like a little secret?
There was like the group in school, the goths and the maybe the fat guy and the I mean just
but wasn't there a little? There wasn't a little.
There was, and we kind of knew, but they certainly wouldn't say what they were. There was no articulation of this. It was
but you did have some friends who were going through the same thing you were.
Yes, but certainly that we would never acknowledge with one another.
Right.
In fact, we were intent on not acknowledging one another in case we were caught out. There was one dude in my high school. I went to an all-boys school, so it's rugby at its center and also academically excellent.
Rugby?
Everyone played rugby, and the school worshipped the top rugby team, and we were a really good rugby team. And
you look like you could be good at rugby.
My dad was in rugby. I have the rugby build. They put me in the middle of the scrum. I have a thick neck. I have that, but I hated it, and
you hated being in the middle of a scrum?
Well, no, there were advantages. You're sitting there. You're asked, well, what do you put your head down among all these butts?
It sounds sexual. It sounds like something that would be in
rugby players.
Scrum.
And when I grew up, they would not take showers afterwards. They took a bath together.
In a platonic way?
Yeah, but it's all, and of course, all of that, they have these. So I remember my dad was in the rugby club, so I would go up occasionally, and for example, they had a big fucking poster on their main pub wall of just a naked woman with big tits. And so it's and rugby club, that's the ethos of it. It's a real, but anyway, but what was I saying about rugby?
Soccer seems to be more violent, the people in the stands. Than our American sports.
Not anymore, though. It's kind of completely gone. And again, because the main reason it's gone is, first of all, they actually put seats in there. So before, if you get men in a massive, thank you, brother, in a massive crowd of just men, it develops certain dynamics.
Well, anytime you have just men, it's going to go south. I mean, whether it's the Taliban or Wall Street or the Catholic Church.
When I was growing up in school, it was all boys, so assembly would be everyone standing in a big rank, so packed into this hall. And you get away with shit.
What do you mean? Get away with what?
Well, for example, if we were supposed to sing a hymn, and we would not sing it except for the various words that would come out of it, like hard. And so...
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was hard. and the teachers, of course, who just fucking hate it. They were really pissed off. But because we were all doing it, they couldn't find a way to stop it. Or it was like, we just started to go, As boys, we would just, it was incredibly fun. I was not the real mischief maker, but I definitely enjoyed it. But again, it a certain...
And were you popular? Or were you ostracized? Because I had a lot of ostracizing.
No, I was what we call the SWAT. I had a role, which is I was the nerd. I was the guy that got all the best grades, et cetera, et cetera. And I was the smart one. And somehow, they kind of respect it in a way. it was a crazy class of boys. There were 30 of us. One of them turned out to be Fat Boy Slim. The other one who sat next to me is now the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, who I sat next to for 5 years and fought with every fucking day on the bus there and during school. And the other one was the chief pollster for the Remain campaign. It was a really incredible bunch of guys.
I read your column recently, and you were quoting a stat about London, which resonated with me because I sort of said the same thing in a different way anecdotally, that the first time I went to London was 1984, and it was a completely white city. And then I went back, and I think, I don't know, but the last time I was there, it looked like New York, which I'm saying happily, celebrating that. But you were making the point that I think the stat was like it went from, in 50 years, from 86% white to 36 or
39, yeah.
Okay, so
in 50 years. That is
your point, one I'm often making also, is like, just don't gaslight me. Don't be like, the world is irredeemably racist or it can't change. Because we have the statistics. It can. We're not people who should be deprived of the joy of celebrating our progress. And, you know, but they equate it with, you can't say we've done all this without them going, there's still work to be done.
Right.
Yeah, adults assumed that before the conversation started. That's why you're not adults and you're so fucking tedious.
Right.
Because adults assume things, the nuance part of it that doesn't have to, but you saintly people have to hear it out. Okay, yes, of course, we get it.
It's fucking amazing, the things that happen today that we take for granted, and they complain about. I mean, again, this is like, where was I going with that?
But I mean, London to go, but just let me pause.
But yes, and also, and by
to go
and
from
large,
86% to 39%. To 39%, it's like, don't tell me things don't change.
And show me the white supremacist marches. Show me the other part of this is, look, to me, it's, look, your regular English people, traditional people out in the countryside, out in the small towns, the some old Londoners, they're going to find this kind of weird. They're going to be absolutely find this a little bewildering. You know, they're going to find this a little hard to take in, and they're going to have reactions to it.
That London looks so diverse?
Suddenly, like,
of course,
or that it's so rich, or that it's the center of, like, when I used to go to London, it was a totally different city when I left it. Now I feel like I'm going to an American blue city. I have the same facilities, I have the same
of course,
options.
in the march of human history, down the road of progress, there are always going to be stragglers. There are stragglers in this country. Yes, stragglers by the millions.
Okay.
The point is, exactly, you can't, like, just stop every set of ideas that doesn't, make you go, there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge.
They won't actually celebrate.
The stragglers don't have power anymore.
They don't, by and large, but also my feeling is...
And they're not popular. It's not popular to be racist.
Of course it isn't. It isn't.
So, like, yes, is there work to be done? And then you've also written about this. I love the kind of like attitude that some wokesters have about, well, if only the older white people would die. Like, you're perfect at handling the world, I'm sure, darling. You'd like this, hurry up, die. I think you wrote that, hurry up and die. It's like, what a terrible attitude to have. I know. Even with people, and people essentially on your side politically, even, but also, of course, the Trumpsters. If they would just die, then things would be perfect, because...
again, do they hear themselves? Do they hear themselves? The way they talk about large groups of people? My feeling is, look, in all of human history, the vast majority of it, like, think of England. This is another stat. In 2015 alone, more people net migrated into the United Kingdom than all the people that migrated into the United Kingdom from 1066 to 1950.
In 1 year?
In 1 year.
2015, okay.
The pace of this is unprecedented in human history. Now, America's different. America's always had this massive amounts of new people coming in New York.
Right.
The fact that London, no one goes to a little island off the rainy island off the top across of Europe to seek their fortune. Some people did from the Commonwealth and elsewhere, but no, people left those islands by and large. And the people that stayed there had such an incredibly homogeneous, even genetically. They're an island. They're cut off. Suddenly, their whole world is revolutionized.
Right.
Of course, you're going to have people who are going to feel upset and confused and feel like they're losing a sense of their country and who is this and whatever. And the worst thing my brother said this to me about London once when we were talking. I'm going to London for the weekend. He said, well, it's not our capital anymore, is it?
Oh. Yeah, I mean,
he didn't mean it racially.
No,
honestly,
and that's he
did not mean it that way.
That's the nuance that they refuse to see or understand.
It's not like the English have their English capital. Right. It's a totally different world. It's like a spaceship landed from globalization land, in which all these super smart and very wealthy white people and all their multicultural, diverse, multiracial servants essentially live in these big, bustling cities, and I mean, London today I would much rather live in it than London in 1984, but I don't begrudge the people that feel like, shit, what's happened to my world? I don't understand this.
So what is London?
And when I say what's happened, I'm called a racist and fuck you. And vote for Brexit. Right. And that's what happens.
What is London like? Last time I was there, I think I've been to London 5 times. I was there in '99. We did Politically Incorrect there for a week. That was kind of a bust, but I enjoyed being there. And then I was there in 2015, some other times. I once did the Bob Monkhouse show. Do you remember Bob Monkhouse?
Oh my God.
Bob Monkhouse was like, they described to me as a combination of Ed Sullivan and Johnny Carson.
Not quite, no. But just the most incredible, there was something just...
But he had a big show.
Huge show.
Okay, so for an American comedian to go over there and do that show was a gig. It was like the best gig I'd had up until then. Right. I remember they had to, union rules give you first class airfare and 2 tickets. And first class ticket was like $10,000 round trip. And you could trade them in, as of course I did, for one person in coach and make more money than I ever made on any gig in my life. That was the Bob Monkhouse show. I didn't think I did too great on it. But yeah, he was an interviewer.
I just have this complete free association with that show, which is, I think it's that show. It's either that or Des O'Connor. Maybe it was Des O'Connor.
Des O'Connor.
A similar character of the time. These sort of variety show people who were allegedly funny. But here's the thing. So it's like, I don't think of me. I'm like a 10-year-old boy watching the Bob Monkhouse Des O'Connor show. It's all there is to watch. And I see this sketch in a doctor's office. And this guy comes in, and he's the patient. He lies down, and the doctor asks him to take off his shirt. He takes off his shirt, and he has this incredible mass of body hair. I'd never seen a man with it looked like a forest.
A sweater.
It was a sweater. And I just was looking at the screen, just mesmerized by this. I could not take my eyes off this chest. And I literally the next day I said, and then not only that, but the doctor got to tap on it, listen to it, tap here and there, and then. And so the next day I'm like, Mom, how do you become a doctor? That's how I knew that was the only way in which I knew I was gay. I just thought, is that the way you could, the only way you could do that was if a man can touch a man's chest, but only if he's a doctor. And so how do I do, that's what I have to, so you're spending your whole childhood trying to figure this fucking thing out because no one said anything to you.
And I mean, if you really want to be happy with that, proctologist, you could be a proctologist. Just the way a straight man can choose, and I always thought it was suspicious to be a gynecologist. Of all the specialties and practices, I want to know why these people pick vaginas and assholes. I do. I'm not saying it does not need it, and I'm sure you make a nice living, but it also could have been heart, lungs, kidneys. I mean, I could think of 1,000 parts of the body, but to go right for the asshole, I got to know.
But assholes putting your in there.
Oh, I can't even.
Well, hold on. Let's before I get. I'm just hold on a second. Just hold on. Calm down. I'm not even going to talk about it much. I'm just introducing a concept here. that that was not part of anything I thought about as a gay person forever. I had no idea about it. I didn't know that involved sticking something up your butthole.
Okay.
I didn't. I absolutely had no idea. So don't think I wanted to.
No,
it was the furry chest I was into, not the butthole.
And don't think I am in any way homophobic or don't love you and every gay person, gay man, when I say, like, for whatever reason, probably because the way I was, they say everything happens in the, wait a second, can I finish?
Yes.
In the anal stage. For whatever reason, I mean, no one likes shit, but I really feel that I dislike it more than the average person. And so just the idea, I mean, I don't like to shit itself. Now I'm going to fuck in it. I just, and I know you can clean it out till it would never be clean enough for me. It's just, I mean, that's where the shit comes out. I just don't get you guys. I mean, there's got to be something. I mean, it's very Johnny Depp. With getting into bed and finding out there's worse places to sleep than the wet spot. But anyway.
No, we can talk about it. But I know here's what I would say to you. I do not look. Here's the thing. I think it's perfectly natural, and people get mad if you're saying this, but I know this because I'm a man, but the other way around, to feel not just I don't understand that, but that makes me want to vomit. It's one of the things I'm actually repelled by that.
By what?
You thinking about a butthole, by having sex in a butthole, makes you want to puke. It's a disgust mechanism, right?
I'm glad you're saying it.
I'm just saying that's what it is. It's disgust, right?
And I think the fact that...
But now I'm telling you this, in reverse, of course I understand that. Okay. It doesn't mean you're homo-fucking-phobic.
Of course it doesn't.
Of course it doesn't.
And in fact, quite the opposite. What it means to me is that the fact that I can absolutely love it, that you can like that thing that I don't, is kind of the very definition of tolerance. It's like,
cool.
It's not for me, but, we tolerate each other's taste.
Of course we do.
Especially if it doesn't inflict on me. And even sometimes when things do inflict on me, I'm like, yes, I will do that for my fellow man for one reason or another.
Also, it's just more interesting world.
Yeah,
people are funny.
But it is fucking gross. I just don't know what
but gay men feel the same way.
Of course,
about vaginas. The idea
I know. I can see. In both cases, there's an odor that's associated with it, and maybe I don't like the one and I like the other, and vice versa.
I think this is even prior to our liking things. I think it's completely fucking mysterious.
It's personal taste.
No, it's not. It's not taste because it's not even at the level of rationality.
You're right.
It is driven in some way. That's fascinating to me.
Right.
Like, why, for example, would a man's BO give me the hardest hard-on?
Well, I think it's something to do with being gay. I'm no doctor, but let me tell you. No, I know. It is so fascinating.
So I don't begrudge my straight male peers of having these responses.
But what do you make of...
And I also don't begrudge them feeling uncomfortable in certain circumstances, which is why I try not to put them in those circumstances.
I got an important question I got to ask you, Dr. Homo, while you're here with your...
Ask a homo.
Sharing your expertise on this subject. Yes. What do you make of a civilization like Rome, where, unless I got the information wrong, and I don't think I did. I'm no John Meacham, but I was a history major. But I mean, ancient Rome, the Rome of Mark Antony and Julius Caesar and Cato and OJ, Cato and Cicero. These guys, if you could, you fucked men and women. They didn't really have a distinction of gayness like we did. It was more like, who's cute? So, like, Mark Antony had 12-year-old boys and hot women. And that was much more considered the norm. It's like, if you can be rich and be a baller in old Rome, you get your pick of the...
But notice it's boys and women. It's not men.
But it's
It's
still
not male. No.
it's still something without a vagina.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's to me the big one.
Right.
Okay, it's still boys, men, whatever it is. You're talking.
Could you see a? Well, that's not talking. It's lose.
No. Tell me, you can't do that.
I mean, there are women, for example, that I can see and recognize and as shockingly beautiful and sexy. I know.
Right.
It's like I know.
Sure.
I'm not stupid.
Of course, we're not blind.
Right. And I can also think of them as beautiful in many ways. I can be entranced by it. There was something deep down there. Some button is just not turned on.
Again, I think it's the gay thing.
It is the gay thing. That's what it is.
I swear to God, I'm onto something here.
But I do think there were gay men in Rome who are not these people that are interested in. But the other thing you have to understand those cultures is that
nobody was gay. Everybody was sort of like bisexual, and that was more the norm. It says something very interesting about, something that's very current today, which is like the teaching that we're all sort of on a sliding scale. Now, you and I have railed against it because they're telling it to, they're doing it. We talked about it on the show tonight. We have to go into it here, but kids too young to understand this stuff. But the idea that we are all like strictly straight or gay, Rome kind of makes me think, yeah, they're definitely in a different civilization, and this was the civilization that led the world for almost 1,000 years, and this
created the world, the Western world.
Yeah, created the Greeks did, but and the Greeks were. Do I have to take more?
We've talked about various aspects of this. For example, so the feelings I had for another boy, just a crush, had nothing sexual about them at all, right? They were, there are the feelings of deep, and this is the other thing that the ancients are better at. There are relations between two men of real passionate friendship. They're not erotic, but are really intense. The ancients had a much better...
You mean like Achilles and...
Well, no, all the notions of spiritual friendship among men. In fact, it was regarded as higher than any other form.
Achilles in the Odyssey is he's in love with that. I forget who it is.
But there you are, in love. You see, now in love, I think that's it's a much more vague. I'm too stoned to talk about this.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I think, which is like just the way women can only understand women on a certain level. It must be true of the same of men. So to like have both that kind of understanding that only that kind of person can have for you, plus the sexual element, that is, a way to go. It's not my way to go, but I get
that is a natural part. But you can have the thing that I think one of the things that the Christians didn't like about the Romans and their sexuality was kind of instrumental. I was like, this is hot. This is, and women were treated as merely childbearing instruments, and they weren't treated in any way as equal. So our contemporary understanding of heterosexuality wasn't happening back then too, in that sense. There were lots of straight guys who would vie with each other to get both the cute girls and then the hottest, cutest guys before they hit puberty, when it all went south for them. The Greeks always, in their aesthetics, had worshipped male bodies with little dicks. Like the littlest was the hottest.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's a culture in which smaller dicks are more attractive. So, and they didn't fuck the little boys up the butt at all.
And what about now?
There was no butt fucking back then. It was what they called intracrural, which was between the thighs.
But going back to the little dick, what about now? Like, I'm just curious.
So
is the fashion? Like, I understand why big dicks are attractive to women. They actually make it feel better. I would almost guess the reverse. It is. So little dicks are still in fashion. No?
No.
Why?
Just don't ask me the deepest questions.
Oh, come on. Now you're going to like pull this on me?
I don't know. I'm
just saying why, because the big ones look better.
Why do gay men prefer bigger dicks to smaller dicks?
Probably because it just looks better. Or it's America. We like everything big.
That's true. No, but it seems to be universal, this thing.
But isn't it interesting that humans will...
Somehow they're more attractive, I think, because the dick is your most masculine feature, and if it's the biggest, you're kind of the biggest man.
It just looks better. A small dick looks terrible. Not as bad as an uncircumcised dick, but a small uncircumcised dick, oh, no. Ugh. And I love dicks. No. Oh, no. That's you. Wait. Okay, but isn't it interesting that humans will fuck anything? Totally fuck it.
Men will fuck anything.
Well, yes, men. Yes, correct.
But I think what's interesting is when you go into any society, right, any point, you have very different arrangements and ideas about what's right and wrong. The question for me is what's actually going on under the surface. So, for example, I have no doubt that even though it was forbidden, really, and you don't see in the literature, two grown men in Greece or Rome having a long-term relationship because they kind of fell in love with each other and were actually also sexually attracted to each other. That's not really validated in a lot of the texts back then, but I bet it happened. Really? I bet it happened. The feeling, the experience happened. I'm sure the experience of gay men loving each other and falling in love is throughout history. It's constructed in different ways in different circumstances. But men also are different than women in as much as men want to fuck anyway, and if they can't fuck women, in those circumstances, it's situational homosexuality, they're fine with fucking buttholes and getting blown by men. It's
funny that I've had you on Real Time, like more than any other guest, because you are my favorite, and whenever you're on, like, I remember you were on once with Barney Frank, and like the staff was all like pitching gay. I was like, no, the coolest thing is we don't mention gay at all.
Right.
And that's how I played it. Yeah. It's so funny.
And now here all we're talking about is
the whole
dicks.
Thing is just,
it's kind of fascinating, though.
It's been an hour of dicks in your ass.
Yeah.
But you know what? I never get a chance to like actually find these things out because it's great to find out because I am curious.
I didn't get.
Where would I ever have this conversation other than like with you?
I hope with your good gay friends.
No, but I mean, I do have good gay friends, but we don't.
But you're not going to talk about the mechanics of the whole thing because, frankly, it's inappropriate. But you're curious.
Because it's so alien to you.
Ask me, like, about gay sex.
Okay. Okay. Like,
well, first of all, it was not. It did not. Getting fucked in the ass is not easy experience, and certainly not something that comes in any way easily, and that I considered at all for a very long time for the obvious reasons.
Right. So then you got to like it.
And then that's a very hazardous period.
You didn't get to like it? No.
No. Yes.
Oh, you do.
Of course.
But Bart, how do you decide which guy is going to...
Here we go. These really are the questions you always wanted to ask. And you go right ahead.
What do you flip a coin?
No, it's funny. You don't. First of all, you don't. You can. These are the questions you always want to know. You don't have to be constrained to either. You could do both, each of you. I mean, you're capable of,
right.
And that's the most common, I would think. Because one great advantage that gay men have is that we know, unlike anybody else, any other group, what it's like to fuck and what it's like to be fucked.
Yeah.
You don't? You'll never know that.
I'll never know that. You hope. I mean, you know.
But we do. That puts us in a very unique category. We kind of understand what it must be like for a woman in those circumstances,
right?
And how vulnerable you are in that circumstances, and therefore how power dynamics are not just superior strength. I was saying this the other day on a podcast. I'm like, people talk about consent and all these very elaborate, and it's all right, consent, and absolutely, I'm all for ethical sex, but at some point, it's simply a fact that the human species, to reproduce, one member of one sex has to physically, repeatedly jam an object into not just once or twice, but quite a lot for quite a while until it's likely to hurt, right? I mean,
no,
no, it doesn't hurt. But how do you know?
Oh, I thought you were talking about women.
I am talking about women.
Well, I know.
It doesn't hurt ever.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Well, I'm just saying.
But that's not.
No, but I'm just saying it is.
They generally like it, and it's
but I'm just saying,
if something hurts, they can hurt.
Isn't that a miracle? Like but at the same time, it requires to let someone else into your body.
Well,
is such an act of
yes,
open vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes men don't fully really understand that.
I agree.
And then they're also at that moment, they're not understanding anything. They're fucking animals. And one thing that gay men have, a lot of gay men have, not everyone, is that understanding, which I think is something that
it's kind of wasted since you're never with women.
But that's what it's like hanging out with us. Because we get it, we get it.
You'd be the perfect fuck, but
But we're also victims of being men.
Right.
That we can also be, the general thing is we also can be really callous with one another. And the cruelty of the aesthetic hierarchy can be brutalizing to lots of men. I mean, it's just like, everything you hear about the objectification of women and all the rest of it, and utilitarian use of women like that, it's true of the gay male culture too.
Yeah.
Because men want the perfect thing. We're more motivated than women are by very superficial physical thing. You just put two big boobs in front of a man and it's...
Well, that's a cliche, but yes.
It's true. At some level, it's true.
Not everybody wants two big boobs.
No, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? There's a point at which you're not thinking straight, right? And
yeah, that's happened a few times. I mean, but everyone always says,
I consider it kind of, it's fascinating, both sides, both ways, and relationships can involve both, or they can be quite rigid in which one is definitely one and one is definitely other.
So, okay, here's my next question about this. In a heterosexual relationship, mostly what I've found is that there has to be a kind of a me Tarzan, you Jane dynamic,
really?
Which, sexually, it doesn't mean you're an animal. I think Tarzan was a complete gentleman to my recollection. But like there has to be some sort of, you can't exactly be the same thing. You're my co-equal partner is not going to get anybody hard or wet.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? There's a dynamic going on, whether people want to admit it or not. And yes, you can do it in a non-rapey, horrible way. It's just life, and everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so
in fact, in getting consent and then getting to that is kind of a high stage of civilization.
Yes. So do you have that same thing with a gay relationship, where you're like, somebody is Tarzan and somebody's Jane?
It's funny way of putting it. No. I mean, you can. Absolutely. Yes, you absolutely can.
But you don't.
One could be a sub, and one was to be a sort of rapey top, and like take
sounds so bad.
No, I don't mean it in a bad way.
No, I don't either.
I just mean that's the position you want to. That's the kind of role you want to be. There's also people that have that kind of role in their sex and the opposite role in their lives. There's so many, uptight, very bossy control people who really just want to get fucked to bejesus in the bedroom, and they found someone who feels the other way around. So I'm just saying there is no rule. Obviously, we're all humans, and I don't think but there isn't the same expectation in a way that you're the man. You gotta do her. Really prove yourself.
All right. My next question.
Okay.
How do you know? Like, say I'm just trying to picture.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
You're like any other couple. You're out to dinner and you had a few drinks and you both. First of all, I've always asked this question of heterosexuals, but like when you've been together for a while, how do you know when to throw down? That was always my big problem. Like how do you know when to do it? Like we could always do it because we're a couple. We could do it anytime. So it's like, okay, so say tonight you're going to do it. You go home, this is going to happen. It's both hadn't done it in a couple of weeks, and it's a Friday night, whatever the kind of thing that couples do. Okay, so you go home, you brush your teeth, if you're, because you had dinner, which I think is gross to fuck after food, but that's how people do it. Okay. I think it's reversed. Okay. So now one of you takes the other's hand to lead to the bedroom. Let's say that. How do you know? It could be either one. So there's no person, either one has to be like the Tarzan. It could happen either way. You get to the bedroom, like somebody's going to get blown. How do you know which one? Who's blowing and who's...
because you can start with one and then it goes to the other.
You could, but how does it get decided? That's what I want to know. How does it get decided? Somebody
makes the first move, right?
But there's no sort of like pattern with it in the gay world. You're making it sound like it's so arbitrary. Like, how do we get to...
Sometimes, but there are some relationships in which it's always... Okay. One of the dudes is going to just be the top, and the other guy's not, and then but I've always found the difficulty with that. It's I've always found domesticity and sex hard to put together because I don't know, when you're all, you've had lunch, dinner, you've had some friends, you watch TV, and then you're going to have sex, that somehow just takes the whole erotic charge out of it.
I couldn't agree more.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Horrible.
I just feel like,
I don't know how people do. I know. It's just.
I just don't want to do that.
No.
It just feels, I don't know, it's like making someone a cup of tea.
I agree. I'd rather play piano in a whorehouse. I really would.
So that was, that can be a problem in a marriage, certainly, because after a while,
trust me.
How do you?
I'm telling you, sometimes I'm in a restaurant and I see a couple, and they're sitting across the room, and I know they're married because they're not talking to each other, and it's not because they hate each other. They just have completely run out of things to say. And every 10 minutes, one of them will burble up some, I see the school is getting a new coat of paint, And I just want to walk over to that table and put a revolver down and say, if either one of you wants to use this on each other or yourselves, everyone here will understand. No one will judge. And that's what I guess I don't get about relationships.
I understand that.
At the beginning, it's so exciting, and you're on a canoe, and it's going this wonderful, rapid river, but it's heading toward a cliff. At some point, if you go all the way to Baghdad, it's going to get boring.
Yeah. I mean, and you can lie to yourselves about that, I think. But right. I think at some point you also, you can love someone.
That's the problem. The love remains.
Yes,
but that thing you're talking about, that tingly thing.
Right, but I think that is, but maybe we can't feel that our whole lives. We're never going to feel that with them. So we have to accept that. Then it becomes an act of will. And it becomes an act of sacrifice and an act of love. And that, I think, is, that would be that's what happens. When I see couples who've bored themselves to death for 40 years.
Yeah. Well,
still helping each other.
No.
Still picking up. Still helping each other to the picking up at the airport. Giving them a hug at the end of the night. Look, this is who we are, Bill.
I know.
And I think also,
I just don't get it.
The alternative, the single life, your life.
Yeah.
It's just hard for most people. I think.
Well, it can be hard for me, and it has been hard for me many times. But to me, that thing that you're talking about that's so hard to get, yes, that's the desire of the moth for the star, as one of your British poets said. And I'm sorry, but that's my, I can't fake. I can't fake. I'm obviously. That's like when I'm selling on TV. It's like I can't, and it's okay, And
when it gets to, is it your turn tonight or mine?
What?
When it gets to, is it your turn tonight or mine?
Well, I don't know. I mean, again, this is a birthday, so you're getting me on a night when I'm obviously you can't help but be reflective on years, on changes, and it's a strange juncture because what's actually in my life has never been better. I love it all, pretty much. Love doing this a lot, which is a new thing in my life. So new things do come into your life. And, the bad is that, it all could end tomorrow because you're, obviously Your body could just start falling apart. But as long as it hasn't, I mean, I pretty much do everything, because I didn't have a marriage or kids, I pretty much do everything I did 30 years ago. I got to do it the same.
I'm beginning to feel the same way in some ways, because I am.
And that could be Arrested Development. You could hate me for that. Or you could say, he he does what he likes, and why change? Why?
Did you see the Banshees of Inisherin? I don't want to.
I have almost seen it. Okay. I'm almost at the end. And let's talk about it. The Banshees of Inisherin, yeah. My friend Jimmy said, he and his wife saw it. They cautioned me off of it. So it came on, it came on cable, which I can watch. I could tape it and watch it in the kitchen. So I thought, this is a kitchen show, because I watch things in different rooms depending on how much I want to. And I thought it's going to be kind of, talky and ponderous, which it is, but in the kitchen it works perfectly. And I'm almost to the end. The spoiler alert, the cutting off of the fingers. I'm almost at the end, and I don't quite see how it pays off. I think the sister left, and
the scene I'm thinking of, just by what you were just saying, that's what I thought about, was when Cullum, who's come to this realization that just being this normal person with a friend, it's just no one's going to remember us. So I have to be more than that. I have to produce some music. Like, you have to do your thing. I have to write
that's the point of the movie.
Well, that's part of it. There's a point at which there's and it is that conflict. And there's a point in the movie where Parek's sister, Shaban, goes over, brings him his finger back, actually.
Yeah.
Now and then they have this conversation, and it says, okay, I'll tell him not to do this anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then, and she says, that wouldn't be good for your music, would it, if you chopped all your fingers off? And he said, well, now we're getting somewhere.
No.
And then
he does it.
Then at some point he said, sorry, this haunted me, this line. He said, sometimes I think we're just entertaining ourselves to stave off the inevitable. Don't you think? And she said, no, I don't. And he looks at her and says, yeah, you do.
Ooh. So Irish.
It's so Irish, isn't it?
So Irish.
It's so very Irish.
My people. And they had a rough, and yours probably, Sullivan.
Very much, man.
Sullivan and Maher, two Irishmen having a drink.
His fucking name, Patrick Sullivan, is there. And every time I get my 23andMe back, I become whiter and I become more Irish.
But the Irish,
the West Coast of Ireland, these people, I mean,
a lot of suffering, and a lot of that poetic in the soul from the suffering that the
I don't know
Jews,
why. I don't.
Polish.
I really don't believe this is possible. I just felt like
Black people. There's been a lot of suffering in the world.
Yeah, and I see that. I just feel this deep connection to it in some kind of way. The way they, for example, they mix this dark humor with, or they mix this real anger with sudden intimacy.
This better have a big payoff because, like. Since we ruined the movie already. So what year is this taking place in, by
1923.
That's what I thought, because he mentions the war, the one. I thought, okay, that's what we're... So 1923 Ireland, by the way, the beauty of where they shot it is astounding. All those stone fences, it's just gorgeous.
And the drone photography really helps that too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it doesn't seem like an Irish Spring commercial.
No. But Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, both great actors. Oh. And they're in the village and they're buddies, and one day Colin finds out that Brendan Gleeson just doesn't want to talk to him anymore. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, you just bore me. And Colin Farrell, who one of the most charismatic actors of the last 50 years, he's a bore. Okay, I got past that. He's just too boring to even talk to. I'm like, that's an interesting premise. And then where the fingers come in, ladies and gentlemen, is Brendan Gleeson so much doesn't want to talk to the boringest person ever, Colin Farrell, that he said, if you talk to me one more time, I'm going to cut my fucking finger up. And he plays the violin, so he needs his fingers.
Fiddle.
The fiddle, okay. So, of course, he talks to him, and he does cut his finger off. And then he cuts all his fingers off. And then Colin Farrell burns his house down. I got that far. And then the sister leaves. And then does something happen at the end to redeem this story?
You're almost done, buddy. Okay, there's 5 minutes left.
Is there any? Yeah, I haven't seen the very end. What happens?
Well,
I spoiled it for everybody else. Don't spoil it for me. I don't care.
Well, you know, this is going to happen.
It's not like a fucking superhero comes down and shoots rays out of his fingers. Something happens or doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
No.
That's what Jimmy said. He said, we're waiting for this big payoff, and there is none.
No. It's then you've then.
Is that good or bad? Did you like that?
I didn't need a payoff. At that point, I was.
You liked it.
I think it's a masterpiece.
A masterpiece. Okay.
I mean,
and again, because
I've written my column about it this week, actually.
The theme of this is that it's just
about. But I think with you look at Colin, the guy who's behaving this way and
cuts his fingers off.
Crazy. He's facing mortality. He's exactly that's where I picked up from you. He's looking at it, thinking, what do I know?
But how am I going to jerk off with a bunch of stumps? I'll have to get Crazy back out of the closet. Crazy's like, oh, I had you as infant, I had you as a teenager, and now we're getting together when you're 67. That's
we're constantly right now talking about the dangers of atomized society, individualism, no common meaning. Everyone has a choice. And you look at that island and you see this old world where everyone knows absolutely everybody. Yeah, 923.
Oh yeah.
There's no radio.
No.
There's not even electricity as far as one can see. And they've been there for fucking hundreds of years.
Yes.
This is their life.
But okay,
but my point is that this is what everyone is now talking about missing, and you could see why, because those people are embedded.
But what is the larger idea I'm taking away from a guy who says to his friend just one day out of the blue, "You bore me to tears"? You're saying mortality. In other words, he's like, every day I only have so many days left because I'm feeling older. So every day must be filled with, like, what else was in the village? I mean, there was nothing better. It's not like I could see, like, hey.
He wants to write music and go beyond the village in some ways.
But why was talking to that guy at the pub preventing that? What about the other?
I mean, Bill, no,
taking it too literally?
Yeah, I think the core decision of him to do this is baffling. Makes no sense at all. It is absurd.
Oh, good.
This is a darkly absurd film in the way that, like Flannery O'Connor's short stories, you suddenly get this grotesque thing happening in it. So it's not, it's also obviously a parable. This is not an actual island. It's his fictional island that he's created. So it's basically, I think, just a way for him to explore these ideas and to ask us: do we want to be where we are with all this freedom, or do we miss something there? And then he's asking, what is the point of our lives? Is it really to just be with one another and to listen, even if we're bored, or is it to create something? And at some point, you kind of face that crisis. But the fact
that he couldn't create anymore because he cut off the fingers he needed to play the violin, it's almost
That's the point. It's the Irish grudge. You are so fixated on your bitter grudge that you will literally cut off your nose to spite your face.
Okay.
It is that Irish...
It was a little bit Gift of the Magi. Remember the Gift of the Magi where... the famous story where the poor couple, and she cuts off her hair, which is like her prize, her long hair, to get something, I can't remember, for him, and he sells something he loves to get combs for her hair. And whatever it was, whatever they did for each other's gift, makes it so that neither one of them work out. It's a little like this story.
Yeah.
Stupid. No,
there is something about the Irish, and don't you see? I see it in myself too.
I get it now.
When I will say things and do things, and you do this too, that will be detrimental to you, and sometimes you think, fuck it. Well, you take risks. You say things that will have big blowback, et cetera, but you're not going to. At some point,
it's still rational.
I know it's rational, but I'm
making a decision. I will take.
Have you never in your private or personal or any life just stuck to your guns in a way that even at the end of it, you know you're hurting yourself, but you still won't give up?
Yes, but for a reason. Like, I will spend political capital, if I can use that term, on something on real time where I know there'll be blowback, but it's an important point that has to be made.
Right.
You know, obesity, trans stuff. I've done it, a zillion times, and so have you. But I'm not going to spend political capital on something stupid. You know what I mean?
No,
I pick my moments.
There's something very Irish about hurting yourself to make a point.
I understand this movie better now.
Right. Okay. I think
we're like Siskel and Ebert. If one of them was pretty stupid and the other one had to explain the movie to him.
But you're literally hearing the Irish kill each other on the mainland. You know, this is the Irish. You hear the firing squads of the IRA of other Irish people in the distance.
You do? In the movie?
In the movie, you hear those bombs going off on the mainland. They talk about the war happening, and the guy's going to volunteer to do an execution.
When you watch it in the kitchen, you miss a few things. I may have been at the refrigerator at that moment. I'm saying I didn't give this movie its proper due. God, the poor guy who directed this must be like, what a dick. Watching my movie that's up for like every award while he's making a fucking sandwich.
Do you know any other McDonough stuff? His plays are amazing. This
is a play?
No, this wasn't a play. This is a screenplay. But he became known for these incredible plays, and because you can see it too, can't you? Because in a way,
all right, you convinced me. I'll watch it in the bathtub. No, but listen, I do watch movies. I specifically, DVR them in 3 different rooms in the house based on like how much I want to pay close attention. I'll watch it in my bedroom, like the TV that's in my bed. I'm just watching it before I go to sleep. And I watch movies in the bathtub, and I watch them in the kitchen. And like the bathtub movies, sometimes I reviewed them here. I'm going to start doing it again because they're like, I usually watch ones that are like from, I don't know, they're just the past that I saw a long time ago, like Terms of Endearment, or I just watched Rain Man again. By the way, you couldn't make that today. By the way, how many movies would we have to say that, or have you heard the term, oh, they couldn't make that now?
Like basically everything.
That says so much about how we've gone off the deep end, and I'm so resentful of that. Like the people who are always asking for apologies should apologize for all the things I haven't heard because somebody kept it in their mind because they didn't want to say it out loud. All the jokes I could have laughed at. You people should be paying penance for that. And the movies that, you couldn't.
You know what? The one movie I try and watch every year is Airplane. Oh, it's my favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's fucking cheap.
And the second one, where they go to Mars or they go to the moon, or they go to the moon.
That first one is there is not a moment.
No, David Zucker, brilliant.
It's and you just feel like.
And that was the. By the way, I remember.
And all the crazy ass jokes, all the crazy stereotypes are all based on true things.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. It's like the most established finding in social science is the truth of stereotypes.
But that movie, Airplane, was groundbreaking because before that, people set up jokes a lot longer and there were less jokes per minute. And his thing was, let's make a movie where just from top to bottom, we sight gags, like something's happening. There's no minute goes by without we're actually laughing. It's not as stupid. There is a plot, but and you could not make it. There's a scene where the black guys are they're in the courtroom testifying about the crash over Macho Grande. Are you over Macho Grande? No, not yet. Did it happen? Yeah, whatever. All those word plays. And they speak in jive. I mean, right away you'd begin. But I've been watching movies where, I mean, the things they do just routinely, and these are like some of Hollywood's biggest liberals, and nobody said a word. That's my thing about when the woke looked back to 1492 and said, we wouldn't have, yes, you would have. You would have been one of the same people who had never even occurred to them. In the Bible, it doesn't occur to anybody to not have slavery.
Right.
It literally doesn't occur to them because they have lots of rules about it, and no one goes, what if we just didn't do it at all?
No, you go back and read your Aristotle. There's a whole chapter, well, not a chapter, but several chapters defending it.
So you watch movies from and I see these in the bathtub, like from 10, 15 years ago. First of all, they're often completely white.
Right.
There's zero diversity. And I'm talking about Hollywood's biggest liberals again. So if it didn't occur to them in 2010, yes, you can blame them and hate them, but I have to assume that the liberals are sort of the tip of the spear of how enlightened we are, at least they think they are, and it didn't occur to them.
No.
What
you're describing is just really self-righteousness. That's what you're describing.
Yes.
I mean, that's all.
But also,
and everyone in America is particularly hooked on that, and they've always have been. I mean, this is a Puritan country. It's like in some ways, Bill, the woke movement is really the inheritors of the old mainline Protestant improvers of society.
Ironically, they are. Yes,
that is what
they're busybodies,
and it's with this. I always say that Harvard has basically returned to its roots as a divinity school.
Right. Yes.
But now, I mean, think about it. The old they had to control their language. You had infractions of minor parts of sin you had to take care of. You had to be constantly aware of what you said and who you interacted with. Right. You had to separate yourself constantly out from sinners.
And they were always looking for witches.
Oh, well, of course, the pursuit of heretics is the way in which you prove your virtue.
Right.
That's how it happens.
And they also had that thing, like we think you're a witch, so we'll put you in the water. If you float,
yeah, right.
Right, you were innocent.
Yeah.
And if you drowned, you were a witch.
Yeah.
Or was it the other way around? Yeah, I think if you floated, you were a witch. So either way, you lost.
Right.
Right. And it's kind of like when they say you're either a racist or you're a racist and you don't know it. That's when I want to go, oh, come on. Those are my only two choices?
The subtler one is like, you're a racist. I'm not. Oh, that proves it because you have sexual fragility.
Right.
You're like, well, how could I not prove it? You can't. So you're just guilty until proven innocent, and they get to pick. And I go, fuck you. At the end, you just say fuck you. And in so many ways, I think they don't quite understand that. I'm not. You know how I feel about Trump. I mean, you and I are completely in agreement on this. But how pissed off a lot of people were to say we'd rather fucking that guy than you. I was so fucking sick of this shit.
Oh, the people on the show tonight?
They were just saying to all these liberals, fuck you. That's what it was. It was the only way they knew how.
You're saying because they
had all these resentments of being basically condescended to, told they're this, that, and the other.
Right.
And they hear this and they see immigration doing what it's doing and they know both parties don't care.
But like me, you must meet zillions of people who are saying, oh, thank you for not being sensibly about, I think you're the most sensible person about everybody, but that's because we think alike. But even if people don't agree with us completely, they kind of get how far out the two wings are now. I mean, that's my hope for the new year, is that, some of this is there's got to be a backlash, unless you think it's already happening.
The midterms were incredibly encouraging in terms of people's sanity. People made distinctions, and they don't want to break the country apart.
But they came to their senses about that. The midterms proved that they came to their senses about the right. Which they did.
Now
we're saying we need some proof that you're going to come to your senses about the left.
Yeah. I think the threat of being called a racist or a bigot or a transphobe or whatever has such a power in the liberal mind. They're so terrified of that they can be, they're so easily bullied. And it's like, look.
Right. You have to sometimes agree to be insane or sound insane or else called a bigot.
Yes.
Which is it's like, I'm sorry, I don't bend the knee.
Or overwhelmingly just stay silent and just fucking deal with it and let it go on. And like most people, know this, the teenage boys going through high school getting taught all this stuff, the sane ones are just saying, let it happen. Let's just get on with our work. Let's fucking ignore this. Who are you going to try and fuck this weekend? There's also some part of human nature, I think, that and I think this is what I try and say to myself in some ways, is look, either you believe that human nature is pretty stable, I can recognize human behavior in Shakespeare's plays and in the ancient world and so on, and therefore, people can call each other sie, je, and tree if they want to, but essentially, people are not crazy, and essentially, in fact, there are only two sexes. It's just a matter of time before they realize it. This stuff is just a weird fucking way of saying you want to be a goth this year.
Right.
Just don't fucking put all this bullshit in our fucking laws and our constitution and make it mandatory.
Well, but what I'm saying is I got to stop you, or else you'll get in trouble. But I've read this from you, so I think you just left it out. We are completely on the page that trans is a real thing. I said it right. Okay, so just include that, or else you'll get killed.
I do. I believe.
Of course, I know. I'm having you say it. It's a real thing, real but rare. It's just that's really. I think you said it that way.
It is
real but rare, and it's not a.
it's a real experience. It's a human experience.
It sometimes
it is valid
happens.
As a straight person, as a gay person, as anybody else. And no one should be discriminated against it. And if you're an adult, you should be able to do whatever you want to do, and we should respect that. But we don't have to undo everything we understand about sex and gender to accommodate this.
Right. We don't have to all pretend that we're some version of trans along the way, because we're not. And it's, and we're, again, all our love if you are. But and especially with children. I mean, and again, I'm not like the last guy who should give a shit about children, but it just bugs me on a bullying level. Sort of
I
the
do
way
too. I think it's there's something. Look, if you go to Catholic elementary school, they won't teach you Aquinas, but they will teach you, Earth was created by God, that there's the Trinity, etc. It's very basic.
I had
things.
that.
And love your neighbor and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it's very basic. Yeah. This is exactly the same way. It is a kind of religious doctrine. Everything you see around you is, there are no men and women. There are just bodies that you could ascribe different, and they're starting that young and in public schools.
I mean, come on.
It's like creation.
Jesus, these kids are still learning that glue isn't food.
No.
And
what I worry about, Bill, is that, and I hear this is very frustrating as a gay person, is you hear all this privately, all the fucking time. Thank you, or I'm really kind of nervous about this. Freaks me out. I don't know what to say. And there are lots of people that give you the line and are very upset you even, but a lot of people are just like, and also they're worried that the blowback is going to affect genuine tolerance of trans adults and gay people, that we're beginning to get these very ugly strains coming out of the right. And you want a legitimate thing like we'd like to slow down and make sure we're not overdoing medicalizing kids too soon and just hold on a bit, to these red states banning any medical intervention whatsoever, and also then banning any mention of it in school. And it's as if you can't find this sane way in the middle.
I think it was you who's also made the point that to lump gay and trans together is just inherently unworkable, because the essence of fighting for gay rights was always, we're born this way. Don't say we can be cured, or that's insulting, which it is. We're born this way. Trans is the exact opposite.
You get to choose whatever you want.
The way we're born is so there's a division within that block. I mean, I get why they're blocked.
The other thing is
that is always going to be a problem.
The reason we're gay is because we're attracted to one sex rather than the other, right?
And we're back to fucking in the ass.
Well, but that's binary. That's binary.
I know.
And get rid of the binary.
Yeah.
What the fuck happens with homosexuals? So then we get to the point, this is where we get back to vaginas and assholes again. So, people telling me I have to go down again on a vagina if I'm not to be a bigot, if the person is taking testosterone.
What?
It is, being gay is now often, sometimes regarded as what's called a bigoted genital preference.
Being gay is a bigoted genital preference. I can't even follow this.
Let me tell you.
I'm going to fucking cut my fingers off.
You are, someone is a woman who becomes a man, but it still has a vagina.
Born a woman, becomes a man,
has a vagina.
So they add on a penis?
No, they don't add on a penis.
Okay.
You meet them, you don't, and you decide you don't want to date them, even though they have like beard or a masculine physique in some ways because they build up their muscles with the testosterone.
No penis.
No penis. Actually, no, not just not a penis, a vagina.
You're not allowed to not want someone who doesn't have a penis when you're gay?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I find
that's where we are. I've gone from. I was once told.
But it's just a preference. It's like, I like dick. Oh, Christ, I hope they don't snip that out here. Bill Maher says, no, but I can't even.
No,
I can't even.
And you're a bigot. You're a bigot if you don't agree with that. And I'm like, the last person that told me I needed to fuck a vagina was a priest.
Before I ask you your plugs.
How are you telling me this?
How does it end? How does that get rolled back to where that stupidity becomes the marginalized belief when it's when really everyone is, like you said, in private. You can't, I don't
want to be in the position of saying to someone, I couldn't date you because you have a vagina. I don't want to go into that. I mean, I don't want to have to say I can't date you.
You don't owe any human being on this earth any explanation for why you don't want to date them. Most of them don't want to date you either.
Right.
There's always a certain pool of people who will be interested no matter who you are. There's a lid for every pot. I've seen it in action. But you always should have that choice.
Absolutely. And where they're actually trying to control,
their whole movement is about choice.
It used to be about, I just said, the gay rights movement was about liberation. This is about controlling people. And it's also controlling gay people. Gay men are being told, if you do not want to have sex with someone's vagina, you're actually a bigot. And I've been told that myself. It's out there. It's not that common, but the sense that you can't discriminate that way, my view is the best thing anybody ever said to me growing up being gay was one of my friends in college. Actually, anyway, when I told him I was gay, he just said to me, well, you can't help what makes you hard.
Oh, I'm going to put that on a pillow and have it somewhere here in Club Random. I'll be at the Hard Rock Live in Sacramento, actually Wheatland, California, this Saturday, February 25th. March 11th, I'll be at Bally's Lake Tahoe. And Sunday, March 12th, the Golden Gate Theater in San Francisco. I haven't played actually the city of San Francisco in a long time. I'm really looking forward to that. But what do you have to plug, Andrew? You have crazy good podcast.
I put out the Weekly Dish every week, and you have this. You have a podcast every week too.
I couldn't live without your writing.
Oh,
I really couldn't.
You're so kind, Bill.
Even if I didn't know you personally or all this information about how you take it in the ass, I swear to God, if it was just from your writing, I would do anything for you to keep you in this world and keep you doing. And you're so prolific too. You put out a lot. Do you get enough rest? Oh God, I'm turning into Ariana Huffington. Are you sleeping enough?
It's a struggle. My health, because
really?
I don't have the strongest lungs. I'm not the strongest physically, and I know I look good, but
you do look good.
Yeah, I'm doing. I'm
look
doing great. Yeah.
You look like you could play the parts that Michael Chiklis plays. And,
I know it fucks with me. I mean, I'm looking, and yeah, so I'm fine. I'm going to be fine.
So will you celebrate my rest of my birthday with me here at Club Random?
Absolutely. This is really nice. Of course, it's nice.
Now the other guests will be arriving in moments.
Fantastic. We also have to realize I can get married and we can both smoke weed.
Well, we're not getting married. I told you I don't marry. But I love you.
I love you too.
Can't we just love without making it official?
Thank you, yes.
Who needs the piece of paper is what I say.